"Try not to cry, princess." They mocked her, until she became a Navy SEAL and took down 6 Marines. The sand was still wet with dawn when she stood alone at the edge of the training field, face bruised, ribs aching, surrounded by 6 Marines who had laughed at her since day one. But today something inside her no longer trembled. Today she whispered, "Try not to cry, princess." The first time anyone called her princess, Lily Archer was 8 years old, sitting on her father's shoulders as he marched in his final Navy ceremony. She remembered gripping his uniform collar, her small fingers tracing the stitching, the way his breath shook when the crowd applauded. He was her hero, and she was his shadow. But shadows don't stay children forever. By 16, Lily had already learned what silence felt like in a house where a father's medals hung on the wall but the man himself was gone. A sudden heart attack, quick, merciless, left her standing in the doorway of their small Virginia home, wondering why the world didn't collapse with her. People told her she was strong. They said it kindly, meaning well. But strength is a lonely compliment. It demands you prove it every day. At school, the boys on the track team mocked her for running with them. At work, older men told her that sweet girls shouldn't dream too big. And whenever she pushed back, the word returned, princess. Soft, fragile, temporary. She buried the word, buried the grief, buried the fear. Until the day she signed her name onto a Navy contract she wasn't sure she'd survive. Lily's first day at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado didn't smell like hope. It smelled like diesel fumes, rusted metal, and ocean salt punching through the morning wind. She stood among 40 recruits, most towering over her. Men carved from iron. Men who looked at her like a tourist wandering into a battlefield. The instructors barked orders without mercy. Bodies hit the sand. Boots slammed pavement. Sweat pooled into the earth like sacrifice. Lily kept up. She wasn't fast, but she was relentless, arms shaking, lungs burning, feet blistered. She didn't flinch when someone muttered lightweight. Didn't react when 2 candidates wagered how long she'd last. She didn't even look up when one whispered behind her, "She'll break by sunset." Because every time she wanted to quit, she heard her father's voice, steady, gentle, alive in memory. "When the world doubts you, baby girl, never join them." But Hell Week wasn't poetic. It was cold, violent, cruel. And on the last night, when she collapsed face first into the surf zone, her instructor knelt beside her. "Archer, ring out now. Save yourself." She lifted her head, sand clinging to her tears. "No, sir, save it for someone weaker than me." 3 years later, Lily wasn't just a SEAL. She was the SEAL half the base whispered about. Not for glory, not for headlines, but because she survived what others thought impossible. She was 5'4", barely 130 pounds. Yet every morning she crushed the PT standards, outwham half her team, and carried her rucksack like it weighed nothing but years of doubt she refused to return to. Still, respect wasn't universal. Some men admired her. Others tolerated her. A few resented her. And then there were the ones who hid their contempt like knives behind their back. On the morning the Marines arrived for joint training, Lily sensed the tension before she saw the buses, the way the air shifted, the way her teammates straightened. Rivalry wasn't new. It was tradition. But the moment 6th Force Recon Marines stepped out, she knew this group didn't just come to train. They came to test. Their leader, Staff Sergeant Blake Rylan, broad-shouldered, stone-jawed, eyes like sharpened steel, let his gaze sweep the SEALs before he saw her. And paused. His lips curled. "That one," he said loudly. "That's who we're integrating with? Try not to bruise her spirit, boys." The laughter bit deeper than fists. Lily kept her face blank, her father's old lesson tightening around her like armor. Stone. Water. Never give them what they want. But Rylan wasn't finished. He stepped closer, boots crunching the gravel, his shadow swallowing her smaller frame. "What's your rate, sailor?" he asked, voice dripping with intentional disrespect. "Lieutenant Lily Archer. SEAL Team 8. He smirked. Seal, right. And how long you been playing dress-up? 3 years, Staff Sergeant. Oh. He gave his Marines a mock gasp. 3 whole years. Boys, be gentle. She's practically a toddler. Snickers echoed behind him. Lily kept her spine straight, even when the heat rose in her ears. Even when the sting pressed behind her eyes. Same course. Same standards, she said calmly. Same hell week. Sure, he replied, leaning in until she felt his breath. And I'm sure none of those standards were lowered for you. He paused. Try not to cry, Princess. It's only 2 weeks. The words landed like a slap. The men laughed. The air tightened. But Lily didn't move. Because if she reacted, even once, every rumor, every whisper, every doubt would become truth. And she had spent her whole life fighting that truth. The next days unfolded like a slow war, not of bullets but humiliation. At the shooting range, Lily's rifle cracked through the morning air with steady, controlled precision. 40 rounds. 40 hit. Perfect. Rylan leaned against the booth behind her, arms crossed. Must be nice having the target moved closer for you. His Marines laughed on cue. At the ocean swim, her strength, she carved through the icy Pacific like she belonged to it. She finished so far ahead the others hadn't even hit the shore when she reached the marker. Rylan clapped slowly. Lightweight advantage, he called. Water barely pulls her down. On day 8 in the kill house, her team beat the record. 0 casualties, 0 errors, flawless maneuvering. Anybody can shoot plywood, Rylan said, shaking his head. Combat's different. People scream. Blood smells. Let's see how she handles that. Lily didn't respond. She couldn't. Any word would feed them. Any emotion would crown their story. But that night, alone in her barracks, her hands shook. Not from fear of them, but from the growing fear she'd break in front of them. And breaking was something she refused to do. On day 11, the tension finally snapped, quietly, deliberately, like someone cutting a wire. Hand-to-hand combat refresher training. The gym was packed. SEALs on one side, Marines on the other. Crash mats covered the floor, and the air buzzed with the weight of unspoken rivalry. The combatives instructor, an old chief with storm-gray hair, called for volunteers. Grappler and striker. Light demonstration. Before Lily could step back, Rylan's voice boomed. I volunteer, Lieutenant Archer. Silence crashed into the room. Heads turned. Muscles tensed. Everyone knew this wasn't training, it was theater. And for striker, Rylan continued, Corporal Mason Holt. Holt stepped forward, tall and wiry, taekwondo patches stitched into his bag like trophies. He cracked his neck and grinned at Lily. I'll go easy, ma'am. The instructor looked uncomfortable. This is supposed to be light. No disrespect, Chief, Rylan interrupted, but we're integrating, right? Let's make it real. Lily met the instructor's eyes. He gave a small nod. Your choice. Her heart knocked once, hard. She could walk away and give them what they wanted. Or she could stay and risk humiliation in front of 60 operators. She stepped onto the mat. I'm good with full contact. They touched gloves. Holt's fists large, calloused, confident. Lily's small, steady, deceptively calm. The instructor's hand rose. Ready. Holt bounced lightly, already smirking. Go. He lunged instantly. A fast jab, then a spinning back kick meant to impress the audience as much as striker. The gym held its breath. Lily wasn't there. Her father used to say fighting wasn't about strength, it was about listening. And Holt's movements were loud. Too loud. His hips rotated early. His stance leaned forward a half-second before commitment. His balance shifted. So she stepped inside the arc of his kick, letting the momentum miss her by inches. Holt stumbled, shocked, his plan collapsing in midair. Before he regained footing, Lily swept his leg, took his back, and locked in a chokehold so clean the instructor's eyebrows shot up. Holt tapped. Once, twice, 3 desperate times. Lily released immediately, stepping back with a respectful nod. But Rylan stepped forward, jaw tight. Again. The instructor frowned. He tapped. Again, Rylan repeated, louder. Unless the lieutenant is tired? Lily met Holt's eyes. He wasn't smirking now. He looked rattled, embarrassed. She nodded once. Round 2. The audience leaned in. The real fight had just begun. Round 2 started with Holt more cautious, circling, searching for an opening. His kicks were sharper, punches tighter. He wasn't playing anymore. His pride was bleeding. Lily kept her guard close, feet light, breath steady. She watched him the way she watched ocean waves, predictable because they thought they were unpredictable. He feinted left, then snapped a roundhouse toward her ribs. She caught it with her forearm, pain flaring, but stepped inside, planting her shoulder into his chest. His breath burst out. She hooked his ankle, twisted, and brought him to the mat hard. He scrambled up, furious. Lucky. Before he finished, Lily moved. Not violently. Not desperately. Just fast, clean, decisive. A palm strike to his chest disrupted his balance. A tightened grip redirected his forward rush. A pivot dropped him again. And this time, when she pinned his arm behind his back, Holt didn't tap. He froze. Because he knew she could break it if she wanted. The gym fell silent. The instructor stepped forward. Match concluded. But Rylan's footsteps cut through the quiet. Slow. Heavy. Intentional. Looks like Holt went easy, he said coldly. How about a real challenge? Lily felt the room shift. He meant himself. The instructor immediately shook his head. No. That's unnecessary. But Rylan stepped onto the mat anyway, boots thudding against the vinyl before he kicked them off and squared his stance. The room was shifting. Some Marines excited, some SEALs tense, many unsure. A staff sergeant sparring a lieutenant? Breaking chain of command? Violating protocol? None of it mattered to Rylan. He had something to prove. Unless you're done for today, princess? He asked, voice razor thin. Lily's pulse thudded once. She could walk away, file a complaint, let leadership handle it. But she saw the looks. The Marines who wanted her humiliated, the SEALs who weren't sure she could hold her ground. And the memory of every time she'd been underestimated pressed into her chest. She stepped forward. The instructor exhaled, defeated. Fine. Controlled sparring. No. Full contact, Rylan interrupted. Lily nodded. Full contact. They faced each other, height difference dramatic. Rylan's muscles coiled like storm clouds, his jaw locked, his expression carved from arrogance and challenge. The room seemed to tilt. The instructor raised his hand. Begin. Rylan charged before the word finished leaving his mouth. Because he wasn't there to spar. He was there to break her. Rylan's fist cut the air like a hammer. Lily slipped under it, feeling the wind brush her cheek. He swung again, faster this time, forcing her back. He wasn't holding back. Not even a little. Every instinct told her to survive, not win. He lunged, grabbing for her collar. She ducked, twisted, felt his fingers graze her shoulder. He was strong, far stronger than Holt. Fighting him felt like trying to stop a freight train with her hands. But brute force had patterns, predictable ones, and fear sharpened her vision. When he kicked toward her side, she caught the angle, redirected, and rolled away. His foot slammed the mat with enough power to shake the floor. He growled, actually growled, and charged again. The SEALs were on their feet now. The Marines leaned in, waiting for her collapse. Rylan swung at her ribs. She blocked. He swung at her jaw. She dodged. He went for a takedown, arms wrapping around her waist. She twisted, planted her knee, and slipped free by inches. But one strike landed. His elbow clipped her cheek, exploding pain across her vision. She stumbled. Gasps filled the gym. Rylan smiled, and stepped forward to finish it. Pain pulsed through Lily's cheek, warm and metallic. For a moment, her vision blurred. And in that blur, she saw her father. Not in uniform. Not at a ceremony. But in their backyard on a summer night, lanterns glowing, him teaching her how to fall without fear. Baby girl, strength isn't shown when you hit. It's shown when you stand back up. Her breath steadied. The noise of the gym faded. When Rylan charged again, she didn't retreat. She stepped into him. Her movement was small, almost gentle, barely a shift of her shoulder. But it redirected his momentum just enough for him to stumble. He recovered quickly, swinging again, but she ducked under his arm, hooked it, and drove her forearm against his elbow. A controlled joint lock. Nothing reckless, nothing cruel, but enough. Rylan's knees buckled. He cursed, tried to twist out, but she flowed with him, fluid, precise, and took his back. One arm around his neck, one leg hook, a rear naked choke locked in with surgical accuracy. Rylan's hands clawed at her arm. His breath sputtered. His balance faltered. Tap, tap, tap. 3 frantic smacks against her wrist. Lily released instantly, stepping back with quiet dignity. And the gym went silent. Rylan dropped to one knee, coughing, his pride bleeding onto the mat louder than the sound of his breath. Holt stared, wide-eyed. The Marines stood frozen, not angry, not defensive, just stunned. Because they had seen something they weren't prepared for. Not a fluke. Not luck. Mastery. The instructor cleared his throat, breaking the silence. Match concluded. Lieutenant Archer, well done. But Lily didn't bask in it. Didn't smirk. Didn't celebrate. She simply touched her bruised cheek and murmured, "Permission to return to training, Chief?" The instructor nodded. As she stepped off the mat, a SEAL named Torres whispered, "Damn, Archer, you just took down 6 Marines in 12 days. She shook her head gently. "No. I just didn't let them take me." When she reached the gym doors, she paused. Rylan still knelt on the mat, staring at the floor like he was trying to understand the moment that broke him. He looked up, eyes darker than before, not with anger, but something heavier. Shame. And something else she didn't expect. Respect. But Lily didn't wait for it. She walked out, quiet as the tide. The next morning, no one laughed when Lily walked onto the training field. The Marines who'd mocked her before now shifted awkwardly, unsure where to place their eyes. The SEALs gave small nods. Subtle, not celebratory, the kind of acknowledgement reserved for those who'd proven something deeper than strength. Rylan approached her slowly. For the first time, he wasn't smirking. "Lieutenant," he said, voice lower than she'd ever heard it. "About yesterday." "It's done," she said softly, refusing to hold the moment over him. But he shook his head. "No. It's not." He cleared his throat. "You earned something I didn't think you could. I misjudged you. Badly." She didn't rescue him from the discomfort. Didn't say, "It's okay." Didn't smile. Because what he was giving wasn't apology, it was surrender of ego. And that deserved honesty. "You didn't misjudge me," she said quietly. "You misjudged what women can carry." Rylan looked down, then nodded. "Fair." He stepped back, letting the others gather around her. Holt approached next, eyes softer. "For what it's worth, you're the toughest operator I've ever touched mats with." Lily simply nodded. Because for the first time in years, she felt seen. The final day of joint training ended with a sunset march across the coastline, SEALs and Marines moving as one formation, boots pounding the earth in unified rhythm. The orange sky flickered across the waves, and Lily felt something she hadn't in years. Peace. Not because the week had been easy, it had been brutal, humiliating, exhausting. But peace found her anyway, settling into the bruises on her ribs and the fading ache on her cheek. As the formation reached the pier, Rylan broke ranks and walked beside her. "Archer," he said quietly, "you changed something this week." She raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Me." There was no arrogance left in him. No swagger. Just a man who'd finally faced the limits of his assumptions. He extended his hand, not in challenge, but in gratitude. She hesitated, then shook it. Firm. Steady. Someone behind them muttered, "Guess she isn't a princess after all." Rylan didn't turn around. "No," he said. She's something they don't have a name for. Lily felt her father in the fading light, his pride somewhere between the waves and the wind. And for the first time, she believed she'd earned it. That night, Lily stood alone on the shoreline, the moon scattering silver across the Pacific. The same ocean she cried into as a girl. The same ocean that tried to break her in Hell Week. The same ocean she outswam while men doubted she should even try. The wind carried a stillness that felt like a hand on her shoulder, her father's hand grounding her. She closed her eyes. "You were right," she whispered. "Strength isn't in hitting. It's in standing back up." Footsteps approached quietly. Torres. He stopped beside her, hands in his pockets. "You know," he said, "what you did in there today, that's the kind of story they'll tell new recruits." She smiled faintly. "I'm not trying to be a story." Too late. They watched the water for a long time, no words, no pride, just breath and quiet. Finally Torres spoke. "What did it cost you? To keep showing up?" Lily's throat tightened. She swallowed. "Everything I was afraid to lose." He nodded slowly. "Worth it." She looked out at the horizon, the endless, trembling line where ocean meets sky. "Yes," she whispered. "Because I didn't just prove them wrong. I proved me right." If Lily's story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you miss, or someone you hope to become, don't leave yet. Hit subscribe, like, and tap the bell icon so these stories keep finding you. You never know, the next one might be the reminder your heart needs.